Welcome to this explainer. Look, I know talking about what happens after we die usually brings up a ton of supernatural dread, right? But today we are going to completely strip all of that fear away. Instead, we're going to transform this entirely inevitable process into a captivating, strictly scientific journey. I mean, it's something that has happened to literally every living creature since the dawn of time, and yet what actually happens to our physical vessels after the end is rarely discussed openly. So we're going to break it down step by step using human biology to understand the exact sequence of events that takes place.
So what actually happens when you die? Let's dive right in by starting at the exact moment a doctor declares a person legally and clinically dead. We usually think of death as just a single, fleeting moment, but biologically, it's a profound transition. This happens when three critical functions finally call it quits. Breathing stops, the heartbeat completely halts, and all brain activity ceases. That is your biological starting line. Because once those three engines shut down, your body doesn't just sit there. It immediately kicks off a highly orchestrated, entirely natural decomposition process.
Section 1. The moment of death and the immediate aftermath.
Right away, your body embarks on this crazy, highly sequential decomposition process. And it starts with something called primary flaccidity. Because your brain isn't sending signals anymore, literally all of your muscles completely relax. The tension is just gone. What this actually looks like is your jaw naturally falls open and your eyelids, having lost all their tension, simply close down. You are in a state of absolute, total physical relaxation.
At the exact same time, you start losing heat. Without that constant pumping of warm blood and your metabolic engine running, your internal temperature starts dropping until it perfectly matches whatever room or environment you're in. Biology actually has a brilliantly spooky name for this phenomenon, the death chill. The body essentially becomes a thermal mirror of its surroundings.
Let's see how this builds on a timeline moving from 0 hours, the literal moment of death, into those first few critical hours of physical changes. Within just a few minutes, we see blood begin to settle. And then, skipping ahead to the 3 to 6 hour mark, we see a massive shift where that totally relaxed muscle state completely reverses. Let's dig into both of those shifts.
Section 2. The body stiffens, gravity and contraction. As the clock ticks, those outside changes to the physical vessel really start to show. And it's basically all driven by two massive forces, gravity and chemical contraction. Within minutes of your heart stopping, your blood completely stops flowing. Since it's not being pushed through your veins anymore, gravity just takes over and pulls all that stagnant blood straight down to the lowest parts of your body. Give it a few hours, and you'll actually see the skin in those areas turn a deep purplish color. We call this livor mortis, or you might have heard it referred to as the post-mortem stain.
Okay, following that blood pooling, we hit that 3 to 6 hour window. Remember how totally relaxed the body was during primary flaccidity? Well, now that once relaxed body powerfully stiffens and contracts. This is rigor mortis, and it spreads through the entire muscular system. But here's the thing, it doesn't happen at the exact same speed for everyone. It actually depends heavily on your age, your gender, and the specific environment you're resting in.
But get this, there is a fascinating biological twist here. That stiffness doesn't last forever. The contraction only holds for anywhere from 20 to 84 hours. Once that window closes, the body goes right back into a relaxed mode. This return to relaxation is known as secondary flaccidity, and this is a huge deal because it acts as a biological alarm bell, signaling the official start of much deeper, far more aggressive decomposition.
Section 3. The internal breakdown, the microscopic takeover.
We've seen the macro stuff, the muscles changing, the blood pooling. Now let's zoom way into the cellular level. It's basically biological chaos down there, following an exact chain reaction. Step 1, your body stops taking in oxygen. Step 2, because of that, toxic carbon dioxide builds up super fast, making the inside of your cells highly acidic. Step 3, that acid gets so intense it literally ruptures your cell sacks. And finally, step 4, with the cells broken wide open, your own internal native germs launch a massive attack. Let's actually look a little closer at step 3 for a second. When that acidic carbon dioxide builds up and ruptures those cell sacks, it releases incredibly powerful enzymes. Think of them kind of like biological Pac-Man. They literally start eating and digesting the cell entirely from the inside out. And because this cellular destruction is happening on a mass scale, it creates very visible, fluid-filled blisters all over the body.
Now, that fluid filling those blisters is basically an all-you-can-eat buffet of nutrients. And guess who loves those nutrients? The native bacteria and fungi that already live naturally inside of us. Normally, our immune system keeps those guys completely in check, but now,
There's absolutely no immune system left to fight them. So these inner germs go on an absolute eating spree, feasting on the fluids released by our destroyed cells.
And just to give you an idea of the sheer scale of this microscopic takeover, as these bacteria and fungi feast, they release nearly 400 different types of chemicals and gases. 400! Your body basically turns into a massive, complex chemical factory kicking into overdrive, fueled entirely by your own biology.
Section 4. Environment and Final Decay. Dust to dust.
As those 400 internal gases start leaking out into the outside world, the external environment completely takes over and dictates the final speed of this whole process. Just look at how drastically the environment changes things. If we establish our baseline as a body buried in mud, let's call that 1x speed. Well, a body immersed in water decomposes 4 times as fast as the one in the mud. And if a body is just left exposed to the open air, it breaks down 8 times faster. So yeah, outer conditions play a monumental role here.
But, regardless of the speed dictated by air, water, or mud, the next step is totally inevitable. The distinct smell of those 400 internal gases acts like a dinner bell, naturally attracting various insects from the surrounding environment. They move right in and start feeding on and thoroughly breaking down whatever soft tissues are left. They are literally nature's ultimate cleanup crew.
Eventually, through the relentless work of enzymes, bacteria, fungi, and insects, all the soft tissue is completely gone. The only thing left behind is the hard framework, the skeleton. But here's the thing, even your bones aren't entirely permanent. Given enough time, that skeleton will also completely decompose and integrate right back into the mud and earth, a complete return to the environment.
Before we wrap up this explainer, I want you to ponder this incredibly haunting biological fact. Science suggests that when a person dies, their sense of hearing is the absolute last sense to go. It is the final thread connecting the minds to the outside world. So if hearing really is the last sense to fade into the dark, what do you think are the very last sounds we process before the end? A comforting voice? The wind? It's a pretty profound thought to leave you with as you consider the incredible, complex machinery of the human body. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer. And remember to keep questioning the wild science happening all around and inside us.